Welcome back to All In Driving. Today we're going to do the first video in a series of 3, getting you ready for the 2024 Formula One season. This video is going to be about the constructors, a little bit about the end of last year and how things fell, and then my predictions for this season. In the second video, we'll talk about the Drivers' Championship, and the third video, if you already have no idea what I'm talking about, I'm going to do a Formula One for beginners just to get you started or someone you know started learning a little bit more about Formula One so you can watch and enjoy this season. So stay tuned and enjoy this first one. Red Bull was by far the most consistent team, more than doubling the next best teams on the field, while Ferrari and Mercedes were fairly consistent but far behind them on pace. Aston Martin and McLaren seemed to have reverse seasons, with Aston Martin starting strong before falling off mid-season, and McLaren using the most of their upgrades to land significant podiums late in the season. Alpine was alone in the middle of the pack, and the bottom 4 teams all struggled, with Williams showing pace on faster tracks, Haas showing up early some weekends before showing their slow race pace, and AlphaTauri drivers stuck behind the wheel of a slow car, Alfa Romeo basically an afterthought. Now, here are my predictions for this season. First, let's update some of the names quickly. AlphaTauri is now Visa Cash App RB, but we'll call them RB here just because it's easier. And Alfa Romeo is now Steak Sauber or Kick Sauber, depending on the race weekend, so let's just go with Sauber. While a lot of teams have upgraded and made significant changes to their cars to imitate Red Bull's car from last year, the RB19, Adrian Newey, Red Bull's genius chief technology officer, hasn't rested. Partly because of his brilliance, partly because they were so far ahead of the pack last season, they started working on the RB20 while other outfits were just working on upgrades for last year's cars. Pace has been fantastic for Red Bull, but last year also saw an incredible amount of reliability. Off the top of my head, I can't remember a single Red Bull retirement last season due to car issues. If this car can be as reliable and Principal Christian Horner doesn't get removed from his post due to allegations of harassment, they are looking to be on the top of the leaderboard again this season. After Red Bull, though, things start to get interesting. The next 4 teams could realistically end in any order, and we may see a surprise from RB as well. But here's how I have them listed. So I think Ferrari should finish in second. The work they've done on the car looks to a little bit slower single lap times, but give them more pace and lower tire degradation on Sundays where they've struggled. Ferrari has one of the best driver lineups, but have been held back by their car and team decisions over the past 2 years. Fred Vasseur has been an improvement to the team as principal and should show that in his second year heading the Scuderia. That puts McLaren in third for me. Lando Norris is young, he's still hungry for his first win, and Oscar Piastri showed what he can be capable of with some more experience. There's excitement around the team that wasn't there at the beginning of last season, and the trajectory is heading upward. If they can avoid mistakes, they'll be fighting with Ferrari for second and landing more podiums. I've got Mercedes in fourth because they always show up. Lewis is still close to top form, and he wants to win again. And this year, George needs to perform like a number 1 driver. There is a scenario where the car doesn't look so good at the beginning of the year, and everyone starts looking forward to 2025, especially Lewis. I don't have any doubt that he'll give his best on the track, but if that happens and they're somewhere around 6th or 7th halfway through the season, I'm not sure that he'll be working hard to fix anything that's wrong with the car. There's also a scenario where they're the second most dependable car again, and a little less pace doesn't hurt their final standings, and they finish in second. Aston Martin, I've got 5th, almost solely because of Fernando Alonso. At the end of last season, they basically threw away their upgrades and went back to the car mostly as it was to start 2023. And it was a better car. The cars above are more consistently good, and the cars below this have been consistently not so good. So Aston Martin just ends up in the middle. Lawrence Stroll wants a team championship, but it'll take both drivers to show up in the points all season just to get close. And from here, things get a little tough, so let's work up from the bottom. Haas finished last in 2023, and unfortunately, I think that's where they'll land in 2024. Both drivers are pretty good and show some spark, but there's no reason to think the car will be any better than last year. Both team principal Gunther Steiner and tech director Simone Resta are out, and there are bound to be some setbacks. Sorry, Haas, but someone has to land here. Ninth, I've got Sauber. I've heard almost nothing about the team coming from preseason testing, and so no real reason to believe that this car is going to be much better than last year. Valtteri Bottas has experience and is a solid driver, and Zhou Guanyu is really getting his feet under him in F1, but only the best of the best could will the Sauber into the midfield this year, I think. Williams in 8th is a team with something that neither Sauber or Haas have, and that's Alex Albon. Like Fernando Alonso, Albon will score the majority of the points for his team this season. The car looks to be improved upon significantly, but after testing, it's obvious that they're not the only ones, and they've still got a ways to go. Now at 6 and 7, there are two teams with wildly different outlooks after testing. One looks to move up into the top half of the grid, hopefully, for them, and the other seems to be unhappy with their car out of the box. Both teams have two drivers that can score points any given week, and I see a similar scenario to Aston Martin and McLaren from last season, where RB starts off strong and then falls off a little bit, but Alpine puts in the work to bring an underperforming car into contention. However, RB has more parts and input from Red Bull this year, so I don't think any late season heroics will be enough in this case. RB 6, Alpine 7. So that breaks down the thoughts for this year's Constructors Championship. If you enjoy this content, if you want to see more Formula One videos from me with a little more excitement, a little more panache, let me know in the comments. Click like, hit subscribe, and I will catch you in the next one when we talk about the drivers on their own. Cheers.